Hi guys, and welcome to Escape Wheel Watch Reviews. My name is Steve, and today we're going to be reviewing the Militado ML16. I received this watch for free. I don't have to send the watch back, but you guys know the deal by now. It's not going to sway my review one way or another. You're always going to get my honest opinion on this channel no matter what. And if you want to pick this watch up at the end of the review, I'm going to leave a couple links down in the video description. One will be to the official site and one will be to AliExpress. If you do use the AliExpress link, that is an affiliate link. It doesn't cost you any extra. It's just an easy way for you guys to help support the channel. So I really do appreciate the continued support. So the price I am seeing is $139 US. That should be the full retail price. They are currently on a flash sale for, the early bird pricing or whatever. So it's about $25 off of that. But go check it out to see what the price is in your country. The watch comes in 3 different colorways that you can see on screen now. Keep an eye on that steel bezel model, as that one has a no date and a date version. They swap in a Swiss Ronda 515 movement, and that includes a color matched date wheel. So just something to keep an eye out for. The watch case is made of 316L stainless steel. It has a sapphire crystal with anti-reflective coating, screw-down crown, screw-down case back, 100 meters of claimed water resistance, Swiss Superluminova on the dial and the hands, and the watch is powered by either the Seiko VH31 sweeping quartz, which we have here, or, like I said, the Swiss Ronda 515 quartz. So if you guys are in the market for a Zen homage, they are few and far between, but I feel like that's changing. We got another brand coming in pretty soon, which I will review. But this is definitely one to consider, but it almost feels like a rushed product, and I don't really know why. Some corners were cut, but honestly, for the price, you could do a lot worse. So let's see if those cut corners are worth it in the end. Let's dig in. But before we do a quick wrist check today, wearing my Omega Seamaster 2541.80. This is the GoldenEye version. So first things first, we get to dimensions. We have a bezel diameter of 38.9 millimeters, 10.3 millimeters thick, got a standard 20 millimeter lug width. Lug tip to lug tip is 45.6 millimeters, and sized up for my 7.5 inch wrist. It weighs 120 grams. So the size on this one, a little bit different than what you would get from an actual Zen. So 39 millimeters at the bezel. The case is slightly smaller, 38 millimeters. So I feel like it wears kind of close to a 38. It's pretty short lug to lug, standard lug width, which is nice. And then the VH31 keeps this nice and slim. So yeah, it does wear very nice. It's light, but it doesn't feel cheap. You get decent turn down to the lugs as well. So yeah, it wears really good. I feel like it wears just a little bit small on my larger than average wrist, but not too bad. It's kind of right on my cusp. So I do like the way that it wears. I think it's awesome. So I'm going to go outside right now and throw it on my wrist for you. And here we are on my 7.5 inch wrist. And as you can see, I think it wears pretty darn good on me. It's kind of right on the cusp of being a little bit too small, but still think it wears nice, really low to the wrist, as you can see there. I like all the matte finish. I think on the bracelet it feels very balanced. I like it a lot. There's some strap clearance issues, so go in knowing that. But I'm going to go try and put it on some straps. I know I can fit some on there, but it's a pretty tight fit. And here we are on a Tropic strap. This is one that's lifted off of a Bracelet that I have, but just a typical tropical strap. It does fit. It was pretty tight. It's hitting the case, so I would steer clear of leather straps as they're probably going to get chewed up by the case. So just stick to rubber on this thing and go in knowing that it's going to be a tight fit, and you should be all right. Looks good though. And I had to throw it on my favorite cut-to-size FKMs. These ones are also hitting the case, but still fit nicely. I think the pop of red matches with the dial accents there. I think it looks pretty good. What do you think? And lastly, here we are on a nylon strap. There's 2 layers underneath the watch there. It's a pretty thin nylon strap, so yeah, it's still sitting very nice on the wrist. I did have to use some curved spring bars to make it easy. I can fit it on with normal spring bars, but it's one where I have to put on the spring bars over the strap, so I can't really slip it through. So that's just how tight it is, and this is a pretty thin nylon strap. So yeah, curved spring bars, no issues though. I think it looks good though. It's a Cincy Strapco SF2 for any of you who are wondering. Links will be down below for all these straps. All right, let's go back inside and let's get back to this review. All right, so let's talk about the case finishing, and the case itself is 316L stainless steel, and it is fully bead blasted, as you can see here. Really nice bead blasting though, super smooth. You do have little chamfers here on the lugs there. Nice thin mid case here. These bottom edges of the case, they're not overly sharp or anything like that. And in fact, I couldn't find anything that's super sharp at all on this case. Like normally these tips here are a little bit sharp, and they're not sharp at all on this watch. So they did a very nice job with the case finishing. They also gave it like an anti-fingerprint, and I got to tell you, it seems to be working really good. I don't see fingerprints building up on this case at all, so or the bracelet. So really happy with the case finishing. I think they did a very nice job. Flipping it over to the case back here, just a sterile case back, simple notches there to get a tool on if you ever need to get into the movement. Yeah, overall pretty happy with the case finishing on this watch. You can see here we do have a pretty small but signed screw down crown. Yeah, it sits a little bit low in those crown guards, so it's just something I noticed, and it doesn't really bother me, but that crown is a little bit small to, at least for my fingers to get a grip on. I wish they would have gone up a little bit. But yeah, other than that, there's not a whole lot to complain about when it comes to the case finishing. All right, so let's talk about the bezel. So the bezel insert is a matte ceramic bezel insert with white paint filling and all the markings here. I think it looks pretty good. I like the font in it. The alignment on it is kind of hit and miss. I feel like if I rotate it around, it hits, and then the next time I rotate it around, it will be off a little bit. So something funky is going on there, but I do think it looks pretty good, as you can see here. It's got a very nice matte texture to it. The steel bezel is actually like a radial brushing, so it might clash a little bit with the bead blasting, but and it also has orange accents on it instead of red to match the dial. So yeah, a couple little funny things going on there. The triangle here at 12 o'clock that is loomed. We'll get to the loom shot here in a little bit. The bezel itself, really nice, big and grippy knurling there. The grip on it is great. The resistance is good. The bezel action itself is actually really good. It's a 120 click unidirectional. I'll let you listen to the clicks here. So they are very noisy, but it's a good even resistance all the way around. Yeah, it's actually a really good bezel. I've got no real complaints there. You can see it's misaligned there. And then it's back to align. So it's kind of weird. I don't really know what's going on there, but I do like the bezel on this watch. I think it's done pretty nicely. There's really no, no back play at all, really. It doesn't bounce, it doesn't wobble or anything like that. So overall, I'm actually pretty happy with the bezel on it. All right, so let's talk about the crystal. First things first, we will test it for sapphire. It is positive for sapphire. So we do have just a plain flat sapphire crystal with clear inner reflective coating. You can see here, it doesn't sit up above the bezel at all. There's no big chamfer or anything. It's just the simplest of crystals. Yeah, I think it looks fine. It's been good for me. It doesn't really create any unusual glare or anything like that. So yeah, I'm all right with it. It's not the best crystal, but it's far from the worst. All right, getting up real close, we'll talk about the dial here, and the dial is done pretty nice. There's something that it's going to bother some people, probably not going to bother other people, but definitely I'm kind of in the middle there. I'm kind of leaning towards I wish they would have just matched everything, but and that is the lume color during the daytime. The hands are a very stark white, and then the dial itself kind of has a greenish or yellowish tinge to it. So you can kind of see it here. You can probably see it out in the outdoor shots. Yeah, it's just something that I wish they would have fixed right out the bat. But besides that, it's done very nicely. Printed minute track around the outside, printed indices at all the hour markers. Everything is just printed nice and flat on the dial. There's really no depth to it at all. We have the militado branding there at 12 o'clock. We got the red depth rating. It says 200 meters, but it says 100 meters on their site. So I'm guessing it's just 100 meters, or maybe it's designed to 200 meters, but tested to 100 meters, kind of like what Watch Dives does. We have the broad arrow here. I know that's also a touchy symbol for some people, but for me, it doesn't bother me at all. I like the handset that they have on it. It's very similar to what I have on my Damasco. So it's these nice big sword style hands, fully loomed. There's no border on them at all, so they look fantastic. And then black around the pinion. We have this second hand here, which is red, and then it has a loomed little end on it. Pretty interesting. I'm not sure why they did that. I'd like to see that all red or all loomed actually would be cool too. Just something for them to consider for version 2 if they do make a second version. But besides that, everything is done very nice. Yeah, I've got not really much to complain about. It's a very simple dial. It's just a matte black. There's no texture to it or anything like that. Size-wise, proportion-wise, everything looks good. And the one that does have the Ronda 515, it has a color-matched date wheel. So, yeah, again, not anything to really complain about other than the mismatch of the lume during the day. At night, however, turn the lights out, and I will show you what that looks like. I'm going to pop it up against a couple other watches in the collection, and it actually does pretty good. You can actually see it against my Damasco, and it kind of rolls away from the Damasco, and the Damasco I can read in the middle of the night. This I have no problem reading in the middle of the night. It's because the lume is nice and big and bold. It's pretty easy to do. But the lume on it is actually pretty good. The dial is stronger than the hands, but yeah, other than that, the lume is actually pretty good for a watch that is essentially $100. So like I mentioned earlier, there are two options for the movement. You get one with the date, you get the Swiss Ronda 515. They're fine. I've got no real complaints with those. I believe they're like a 4 or 5 year battery life, 1 tick per second though. You don't get the sweep here. So this is the Seiko VH31, so 4 ticks of the second hand every second. I believe the VH31 battery life is 3 years. And then both of them are extremely accurate. I believe, their stated accuracy is probably like plus or minus 20 seconds a month, but they're going to run a lot more accurate than that. So pick your poison. If you want a date, you're going to have to go with the Ronda movement. If you don't mind having no date, then the VH31 is a perfect movement. I like the sweeping second hand more than the 1 tick per second. You don't have to worry about it lining up with the seconds marks on the dial. So this is the one that I went with, and this is the one I would continue to go with, but that's just me. I don't need a date. The crown on this watch, if you missed it earlier, kind of a small crown. I wish it was a little bit bigger, and it does sit pretty low in the crown guard, so it does make it a little hard to get a grip on it. It's not too bad. The screw in, screw out action is nice and consistent. First position obviously does nothing. And then the second position on the VH31 jumps right into the time setting, so it hacks the movement. This is where you set your time. Alignment seemed fine as well. You push it in, starts up the movement every time, and the screw in action is perfect. So yeah, no issues with the movement on this one. I like that you get a choice of a date or a no date. I would always go with the VH31 though, personally. All right, so let's talk about the bracelet. So it's not the first militado bracelet, but it is one of the only militado bracelets. The other one is just a kind of an oyster style. So this one is actually really interesting, and I was pleasantly surprised, I'll say. So it is a H-link style bracelet, bead blasted again to fit the case nicely. It looks like solid links. We have solid end links, female pivot end links as well. They pivot down perfectly. The end links fit in there nice and tight. There's no unsightly gaps or anything like that. They follow the case curvature pretty darn spot on. The bracelet tapers down from 20 millimeters down to 16 millimeters. You have screws for sizing, which is nice, and those are also bead blasted. I had no issues with those. I've heard some people that did have issues with them. No issues on my end. The clasp here, you can see it is a Militado branded clasp. Looks nice. It kind of flows exactly like you would expect it to, so it's not an overly long clasp or anything like that. I think it looks just about perfect on this watch. 5 levels of micro adjust there, 2 button pushers. They work flawlessly every single time, so really happy with that. Yeah, there's no sharp edges on this clasp anywhere. Actually, it's a pretty standard clasp, but nicely executed. They picked a good one. The bracelet itself, the fluidity is great. I've got no issues with that. It doesn't pull my hairs. This bottom edge has been rounded off nicely. The tolerances on it are actually pretty good, as you can see here. There's not a whole lot of jangle to this. So yeah, it just feels like a nice bracelet. It's surprisingly good for a $100 watch. Probably better than what you get on a $100 watch dives or something like that. So and I think those bracelets are nice too. So yeah, this one is completely serviceable. I think it looks great with it as well, and I like the fact that it's something a little bit different than the typical 3-link. So get a nice H-link style on it. Yeah, it's actually a pretty darn good bracelet. I will mention, if you didn't see it during my strap show, the spring bar location is pretty close to the case, so yeah, it's a very tight fit for straps, so just something to note. So there you go, guys. That is the Militado ML16, a pretty nice dive watch. I mean, kind of diverse pilot style Zen homage. I think it looks good. A little bit small for my preferences. I do have another similar watch coming in the mail, so we'll see how that one stacks up. But for now, this thing is actually pretty awesome. Yeah, I don't have too much to complain about. Like the Lume color is one thing, the small crown is another thing. But besides that, it's a pretty nice watch. I mean, just I don't think it was rushed. I just kind of said that, but yeah, I think it's actually pretty nicely done. That executed almost perfectly. They're very close. So I'm hoping a V2 comes out and they can kind of fix some of these little issues. But even a V1, I think is still pretty good. So I think that's it for me. Thanks a lot for watching. I'll see you in the next one.